Hey guys, in this video I'll be going over how to apply textures onto a basic form. So I have a cube here that I'll be using as my subject. So first I'm going to assign a light source. I'm going to have it coming from up here from the top right corner. So on this cube we have three planes that are visible to us. We have planes A, B, and C. Plane A on top is the closest to the light source, and this means that it'll be the brightest, and when working with ink you actually want to take away a lot of the detail here. You just want to blow out this plane. Plane B will be closest to the texture study that we did, like the thumbnail that we did. It's right in the middle between the brightest and darkest plane. Imagine as if it's a little bit in shade. So it's going to carry the most texture. It's going to be the most vibrant and saturated in color. So this is where you want to push the detail the most. As you can see, plane C is the furthest away from the light source. This means that it'll be the darkest, and if it was in color it would be very desaturated, and also the texture will be very muted. So overall, plane C and plane A will carry a lot less detail than plane B. Now I'm going to take this texture and project it onto these three planes. So first, I'm going to put down the overall structure with line work. I'm going to open up these lines to give myself the option to put in or leave out value. The idea at this point isn't to block in all the detail, but I'm trying to give myself something to work around. Then I'm going to go into the darkest plane. I'm going to start blocking in some texture and value. We go in pretty dark on this plane, but you don't necessarily have to do all of that right now. We can always go back and push the shadows. In this plane, I'm going to work heavily with shadow shapes and use those to group together some value on my textured surface. Now moving on to this middle plane, I'm going to use more lines to hatch and bring in value. We can still see moments of those darkest shadows, but that's going to be limited to areas of heavy overlap or plane changes. Now that I've developed plane B a bit, I can go back into the darkest plane to push these values even darker. You want to see a clear difference between plane B and plane C. Moving on to the lightest plane, I'm going to use minimal lines to define this one. Think about a photo that's been overexposed. We lose a lot of detail in bright light. I'm going to place in little bits of texture to show that it does continue over onto the entire form, but for the most part, I'm going to use this area as a place for the eye to rest. So when you look at a rendered form, we want to balance between areas of light, shadow, and some texture in between. Don't feel like you have to add texture to the entire body of your subject, as that usually flattens out the form. So the relationship between these negative spaces and the shadow is going to really clearly show the volume of the form, and we're just going to use the texture to show a little bit of the gradient in between. And to practice surfacing, take a couple of texture studies and try casting it onto a basic form. To find the direction of light, establish a hierarchy of lightest to darkest planes, and place the texture very clearly somewhere in the middle. Alright guys, let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next chapter.